Russia's entire air defense doctrine just collapsed in 9 minutes, and almost nobody in Moscow wants to talk about it. I'm Bradley Fox, this is Military Fox, and what you're about to see is one of the most devastating drone operations of this entire war. At 0420 hours local time, 44 Ukrainian UJ-26 Beaver drones lifted off simultaneously from a hidden launch site near Kyiv. Their target, a railway bridge in occupied Luhansk, one of the single most important logistics links feeding the entire Eastern Front. This bridge carried fuel, ammunition, and reinforcements from the rear straight into the fight in Donetsk. Ukraine had planned this for 2 months. Total secrecy, flight paths mapped through known radar gaps, and Russia had absolutely no idea what was coming. Here's the thing. Moscow will tell you its air defense network along this corridor is layered, modern, and essentially impenetrable. Nebo-M radar for early warning, S-350 Vityaz for medium-range interception, Pantsir S-1 and Tor systems locked in tight around the bridge itself. On paper, that's a wall no drone swarm should be able to punch through. That's the official story. The reality, as you're about to see, is a completely different picture. Let's start with what Nebo-M is actually built for. It's a multi-band early warning radar, and its VHF channel genuinely can pick up low-flying targets earlier than most conventional systems. Impressive on paper, but it has a critical weakness. Nebo-M cannot generate a firing solution on its own. It has to hand off tracking data to other radars in the network. And that handoff, that split second of coordination, is exactly the seam Ukraine built this entire operation to exploit. By 0424, the lead beavers dropped altitude and hugged the pre-scouted approach corridor, optical sensors locking onto the bridge structure, the tracks, the support pillars. If Nebo-M got jammed or forced silent for even a few minutes, this stopped being a raid. It became a direct strike on Russia's ability to supply the entire Eastern Front. And that's when the next layer showed up. Russia had quietly reinforced this corridor with the S-350 Vityaz, a system whose 50N6A radar is genuinely dangerous against drones and cruise missiles under normal conditions. But Ukrainian operators didn't fly into this the way Russian doctrine expected. They forced the whole formation down to 250 feet, hugging terrain the entire way in. At that altitude, the radar horizon stopped being Russia's advantage and became Ukraine's shield. Ground clutter, trees, buildings, all of it degraded the 50N6A's real-world detection range against small, low-flying targets. By 0426, Russia's reaction window was already collapsing, and every second of delay in that data handoff from early warning to fire control was compressing an entire interception network down to tens of seconds. Now watch what happens when the range drops under 2 miles. The S-350 still has to confirm the target, classify the flight path, issue a firing order, and guide a missile, all inside a window that's basically evaporated. Even Pantsir S-1, the short-range layer meant to catch anything that slips through, needed a full sequence of detection, lock, rotation, and launch, while Beavers closing at 100 miles an hour ran out that clock in seconds. At 0428, the first wave punched straight into the defensive ring around the bridge. The rest poured through the gap that opened behind them. This is where it gets worse for Moscow. At 0430, while smoke was still rising off the air defense positions that had just been hit, the next wave came in through thick fog and then a sudden heavy rainstorm. Pantsir crews were watching signals ghost in and out, altitude readings jumping from 400 feet to 2,000 feet on what was actually a single drone flying low through the weather. That confusion cost the Russian crews roughly 2 extra seconds on lock and fire. 2 seconds doesn't sound like much. In this fight, it was everything. One Pantsir battery did manage to get a lock. 57 E-6 missiles left the launchers at Mach 3.8 and tore into the formation. 8 Beavers went down on approach. When range closed further, the battery switched to its 30mm cannons and knocked down 4 more. 12 drones destroyed total, and 6 still broke through and hit the bridge dead center. tearing open the deck, the tracks, and the load-bearing points. I want you to sit with that number for a second. Russia's defenses detected the threat, engaged with missiles, engaged with cannon fire, and still lost the bridge. That's not a failure of individual crews. That's a structural failure in how this entire network processes multiple-axis, degraded visibility threats. And Ukraine wasn't done. The final 14 Beavers of that first wave got new targeting data mid-flight. A Russian train loaded with weapons and ammunition had just passed through the area, still moving toward the front. Ukraine made the call to stop it before that cargo reached Russian units in the east. 24 more drones followed, splitting into 5 separate groups approaching from different angles, different altitudes, different timing, specifically designed to overload target prioritization on the Russian side. Is this impressive engineering on Ukraine's part? Absolutely. Should you take that as this war being simple or one-sided? No. Russia still has real capability here, real depth, real numbers advantage over the long run. But watch what actually happened when Russia activated Pol 21 electronic warfare to jam GPS across the corridor. The lead Beaver group lost satellite guidance and drifted off course almost immediately. Exactly what Pol 21 is designed to do, and exactly what Russian doctrine expected. Here's where it fell apart. Ukrainian drones switched to inertial navigation combined with visual structure recognition, tracking the rails, the power poles, the curves in the line itself. They didn't need GPS to find that train. When hitting a moving target proved unreliable, the operators didn't force it. One group raced ahead and hit the rail line itself, bending steel, tearing the ballast bed apart. The train's crew had no choice but to slam the emergency brake. In that single moment, a fast-moving target Russia's systems were built to intercept became a slow, heavy, stationary target Russia's systems were never designed to protect at close range. What followed was methodical. The locomotive took a direct hit to the power compartment. A fuel car went up next, temperatures in that fire exceeding 800 degrees Celsius. Then a munitions car in the middle of the train, then a second one further back, each impact triggering secondary explosions that Russian crews on the ground, firing AK-12s into the sky, with a window of maybe 2 or 3 seconds per shot, had no real way to stop. By 0441, the train was disabled beyond field repair. The bridge was down. The corridor was closed. Now here's what you're probably not hearing about this from most coverage of this war. This wasn't luck, and it wasn't a lopsided miracle. This was Ukraine identifying the exact operational seams in a real, modern, layered air defense network. Terrain masking against long-range radar, sensor confusion under weather, GPS dependency, and target saturation against multi-axis swarms, and building a strike specifically to exploit every one of them at once. Russia's network did what it was designed to do. It just wasn't designed for this particular problem, at this particular scale, on this particular morning. And the strategic impact goes well past one bridge and one train. Rail moves far more fuel and ammunition per trip than any truck convoy. So every time Ukraine forces Russia onto the roads instead, logistics get slower, more expensive, and more exposed. Every strike like this forces Moscow to pull more Pantsir batteries, more S-350 systems, more electronic warfare assets back to protect rear-area infrastructure that used to be considered safe, which is assets that are no longer on the front line doing anything else. And there's a message underneath all of it for Russian troops in Donbas. If the trains that keep you supplied can be found and stopped this deep behind your own lines, how safe do you actually feel right now? That's the real story here. Not one bridge, one train, 44 drones. It's what this operation reveals about where this war is actually heading, toward a fight over logistics and infrastructure just as much as a fight over territory. If you want the full picture on how modern drone swarms are actually rewriting air defense doctrine in real time, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a comment telling me which Russian logistics corridor you think gets hit next. I'm Bradley Fox. This is Military Fox. I'll see you in the next one.